Hey, this is Jamie from CapsuleComputers.com, and today we've got a Roccat Tyon here for review. We're trying a little bit of a new format this time with the Roccat Tyon. If you're looking for our usual unboxing video that comes before our review, you can check out either our little note here on the video, or you can go down to the description and check out the Roccat Tyon being unboxed in all its glory. But here we are going to go straight into our review this time. So the Roccat Tyon, we've had some time to get to know it, and I have to say, this is a mouse that I really, really want to just like throw myself at and just like be with it forever, but I can't, and that is really unfortunate. It is possibly what really the layout of the mouse is just brilliant. The button layout is there's plenty of buttons there. Something along I think lines of the number of buttons you would normally see on an MMO designed mouse that you would find like 10 or 13 buttons on the thumb side, but instead Roccat has managed to spread all these extra buttons, some of it on the thumb, some of it on the top, everywhere, which I think is great. The problem is I'm one of those like tiny, I would say, I'm not even going to BS number here, but I've got really tiny hands. I wear a men's glove, extra small to small. You know, if you want to blame it on Asian genetics or whatever, it doesn't matter. I've got tiny hands, and it's really hard to use this mouse to its full potential. Here's my normal mouse grip. As you can see, I can hit the bottom here, Maybe if I stretch out, I can get it here. This dorsal fin button, no problem, I can hit. This button, not a problem. The paddle, not a problem. Here, not very easy. Now, on this button, hopefully we can get it to focus here. This mouse button's a little tough to hit for my hand size. That's more. Sometimes, if I'm a little too far up this way, it's hard to hit the button. It seems like the sweet spot starts around right about there and forward. So if you got larger hands, it's probably not going to be an issue with you, but for those of us who are stuck with smaller hands, Roccat Tyon is going to be a bit big. Definitely a mouse for palm grip users. It's pretty long, unless you've got like really long fingers. You're probably not going to be able to claw this mouse very comfortably. The color on this mouse, I'm going to have to, hopefully it shows well in this video. There we go, see? It kind of just, it's supposed to show be capable of displaying 16.8 million colors. I know it's really hard to see in this video, but it kind of like jumps between colors. It sort of flows a little bit, and then hits a wall and then leaps to the other color. It's only really noticeable under the when you don't have any lighting effects going on, but it is kind of annoying if you just want like a steady colored, I guess a steady LED color going, like, well, not a color, but like a steady LED brightness going on. The accelerator paddle, with these two dorsal, I guess this is called the dorsal fin, and this is the accelerator paddle. These are like supposed to be the big two features Roccat has just been raving about this mouse, and I have to say, starting with the dorsal fin is probably one of the better buttons I've encountered that is positioned below the mouse wheel. I mean, even with me with as tiny hands as I have, I find that the traditional two mouse buttons over here are really just hard to hit. Very rarely do I actually use them for anything beyond shifting mouse DPI. The dorsal fin, on the other hand, I actually used a little more simply because I can just nudge it with a middle finger or my pointer finger and to trigger a macro. However, it's still not the perfect solution, I guess. It's very grip dependent. Personally, I hold my mouse with one finger on each button, so I had to really shift my pointer finger to actually actuate this button. On the other hand, the accelerator analog paddle here is absolutely brilliant. For players who play Battlefield games with a lot of vehicles and whatnot, this is possibly your best friend. It's a chance to really be able to control the thrust of fighter planes or move your turret around. And the actual funny thing is my favorite use of this is actually outside of video games. I'm really, really lazy, I will admit it, and I actually, outside of games, rebound this to scroll up and scroll down, and it was a lot lazier, easier way to scroll through really large documents like some of the 15, 20 page PDF files you get from university and whatnot. It was a great way to scroll through these in a smooth, consistent, and quick manner compared to the middle mouse wheel. It seems a little silly, but actually that was my favorite use for it. The real star of the show, actually, I think, for the Roccat Tyon is this little button over here, the Easy Shift button. Personally, I actually dropped it from the Easy Shift. I moved the Easy Shift key somewhere else because this is possibly the best. Roccat calls it Easy Aim. Other companies call it Sniper Mode or whatever you want to call it. Generally, the idea is that if you hit this Easy Aim button, it will temporarily drop, for the time it is held, it'll drop your DPI down, so it gives you a chance to make really precise shots when you're sniping. Now, most Easy Aim buttons are usually stuck to the side of the mouse, like right here, like one of these buttons, and you have to press them down to do it. Now, I find I don't usually use those buttons because either they require so much force that I'm like practically death gripping my mouse trying to get them to press the button, or it's just enough force that it just feels like I'm kind of like it requires more force to go from left and right to the mouse versus up and down. So I'm not usually a fan of using those sniper mode buttons. However, because I'm pressing downwards towards the mouse pad with this button, so the force that I need, I find, is just more, it's just, I guess, the same sort of force, anywhere you go. And it's a lot easier, more comfortable to use when playing first-person shooters like Team Fortress 2 or whatever is your preferred title. Finally, the Roccat drivers, they're really good, and they're really frustrating at times. The frustration is actually pretty short-lived. I find that the installation was a little rocky. Roccat has a different driver system for, I wouldn't say driver system, but a different driver exe for every single Roccat product, which means that if you've got, let's say, a Roccat keyboard, it's going to need one, and then a Roccat mouse is going to need another, and then to use the talk features where the Easy Aim button could be macroed to your keyboard to affect your mouse, then you need to install a third exe called Roccat Talk software. Frankly, I find the whole thing to be really unnecessary. I still say I would prefer to see one single driver software suite for every single Roccat product, and it would make installation a heck of a lot easier. When I first installed this mouse, I had to install the Tyon software, and that didn't actually bring up the configuration option in my taskbar. It ended up that I had to fiddle around with it and install the Talk software, which initially I thought was kind of unnecessary since I was only using the Roccat Tyon, and that way I was able to actually finally access the configuration. Now the configuration, there are so many things you can tweak around with it, it is great. Whether it's how quickly you want to double click, how much lift you want before the mouse stops responding. There is, what's the word? It can tune itself to work with your mouse pad. You can just configure exactly how quickly the accelerator paddle responds to you. The macro manager is dead simple to use, and Roccat software has always been pretty well laid out. So, as I said, it's a love-hate relationship there too. If you can get it once you get it working, it works great, but I really wish that Roccat would work on getting a little more of a streamlined firmware and software install going. So overall, I think Roccat Tyon is a really great mouse as long as you can physically use it. If you do have smaller hands, whether you're female, Asian, whatever reason you have smaller hands, I highly recommend going to your local computer store if you can, getting your hands on the Roccat Tyon, and trying to see if you can actually reach the buttons based on your grip. It is $99 US. I think it's like, I can't offhand remember the Australian MSRP, but it's probably about usual Australian rates. It's an expensive mouse, it's a great mouse, but I would really hate for someone to go buy this mouse and then realize that their hands are way too tiny for this to use. So I highly recommend either getting some hands-on time with it, whether it's a computer store or you can order it and return it later. Either which way, if you have small hands, get your hands on this, give it a try before you just, I guess, double down and buy it. For those of us with larger hands, highly recommend this mouse. It's a great balance for MMO, FPS, whatever you need to use it for. If you like macros, you like lots of buttons on your mouse, this is it. I find that some of the traditional MMO mice, there's just so many buttons crammed on the thumb that it's hard to remember sometimes what buttons, or they're just really awkward to use. The Tyon gets around this perfectly, and for those of us who like vehicle combat-based games like Battlefield, the accelerator paddle is brilliant. Absolutely worth it. Overall, I give this mouse an 8 capsules out of 10. If you want to learn more about the mouse, you can scroll on down to our description and you can check out our review. It'll be up. And until we see you on our next video, I will catch you later.